Welcome to the Jaybefaunt channel. I am your host, James Fauntleroy. So good to see all of you here. It is Tuesday, man, August 27th, 2024. Good to see all of you here with me. And just to let you guys know, I am also part of Revolutionary Blackout Network. So you can find me there for the JB show on Sundays at 1 p.m. And you can find me on Thursdays for the Savvy and JB show at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if you guys have not already, go ahead and give a like. That helps me out. And thank you so very much from the top and bottom of my heart. If you have not already, you guys can also go to my Substack at jaybefaunt.substack.com. Gives you email notifications whenever I go live or upload clips or write any articles. So you have that there. So good to see all of you here that's joining me who are live on Twitter, Rockfin, Rumble, Twitch, and YouTube. I'm just trying to make sure if the Rumble side is actually working. Yes, it is. Thank goodness. Rumble, you're on. Nice. All right. So good to see all of you here that is watching and all the people that are watching around the world. Just to let you guys know, today is going to be a good day for news because I got a few subjects to cover today. So CBC Voter says, happy Tuesday at JB. Good to see you, CBC Voter. We also have Miguel coming in saying, peace. Thank you so much to see you in here, Miguel. Those of you who are on the Twitter side, go ahead and also comment as well. Appreciate it very much to all of you. Also, what are we going to be talking about today? Well, we have a few subjects we'll be talking about today. Later in the show today, we'll be talking about Florida 2024 ballot initiative Amendment 4. So this is going to be a really important one, especially if you're about body autonomy. So we'll be discussing that very soon later in the show today. In the middle of our show, we're going to be talking about this, expanding democracy. What does being a felon and voting have to do with Florida? So we're going to be talking about that. I want to get into that as soon as we can because, look, we have an election coming up, and this is a very important subject to get into, especially when it comes to felons here in Florida and the ability to vote. But first, we're going to be speaking about big changes in Bangladesh. This is actually going to be a very interesting subject to get into. I know we try to cover geopolitics as much as we possibly can and what's going on the other side of the world. With me, I have reporting here is Imperialism is Bad. Joining me on the show, good to see you. Hi. You're muted. You're muted.
Hey, so good to be here. Excited to be here. I actually, I enjoy RBN.
Oh, great.
One of the only place that's not irritating on left media.
I'm glad that we're as pleasing to your ears, your heart, and your mind as possible. Thank you so very much for joining to talk about this subject. There was some things that have happened recently as far as in Bangladesh. There was a lot of news that were coming out. And one of the things that I wanted to share was some images that had came out regarding what happened in Bangladesh. Let me see if I have my notes right here. Let me see. Let me share my screen because there was a lot of strife that was happening in the streets of Bangladesh. This is from RT. It says Bangladesh PM resigns and flees country as protesters storm palace. So, I'm sorry. Just 1 second. Okay, so but yes, so just to let you, just to go into this. So the Bangladeshi prime minister resigned because of strife that was going on within the country, heavy strife. If you can get us some insights into exactly what was going on there, as to why, just give us like a 30,000 feet point of view from what was going on. Because I know it had to do with
Yeah.
students and government workers. So if you can help
Yeah,
us
yeah.
out.
So basically, um, okay, she's not even. She came to power in like 2008, and she's been like winning elections since then. But here's the thing: like I noticed, okay, I have like a problem with how left. Some people in the left media have been covering this. They've been
Mhm.
saying like she was the elected prime minister. She
Mhm.
wasn't elected. The last time she was democratically elected was 2008. After that, 2014, 2018, the last one, 2024, early February, she wasn't elected. I'll give an example. Like I have, like since I've turned 18, I have never been able to vote. Like I've literally, because, and I live in Portugal, like, right? And the 2024 election in February, my dad went to see who voted, the voter list, and my name was on it. Now, note, I am in Portugal, living in Portugal. I have never voted, but I was on the voter list of the people who have voted. I mean, this is just fake. This is not an election. So basically, the protest started because of the people like to say like affirmative action, but it wasn't affirmative action. It was for legacy admission into jobs. So basically, we had like a liberation war in 1971 from Pakistan, and like the thing is, they created job quotas. Like 30% of government jobs would be allocated for family members of the people who fought in the liberation war. Now, note that's like less than 1% of the population. So
Okay.
1% of the population will have 30% of the jobs allocated for them. And like that's like basically a way to create like your own cadre, like own goon of supporters within the administration, like every level of the administration. So you basically control it. And
Mhm.
okay, and the people were okay with the originally, like when the liberation fighters got like 30% of the job application, then they started giving it to the children. Now it's the grandchildren. And yeah, like that was like just unacceptable to the people. Like one of the thing about the Bangladeshi people is like we'll accept oppression, we'll accept like you stealing our money, like, but we're like a really emotional people. Like that when you like start insulting like our intelligence, for some reason we it's unacceptable. Like I personally don't even understand it. Like my thing, like I'm a communist. I'm more like on a material basis that like if someone's stealing from me, I'm more irritated than just like someone insulting my, you know. But that's my people. Yeah,
Sure.
yeah. So like that bothered them, and like what really turned up the protest was like um the prime minister called the it was the protests were mostly led by students. Like they gave their lives. As a matter of fact, most of the students, their children, like they're 17-year-olds, 18-year-olds, they wouldn't qualify for government jobs anyway. But anyway, they did lay down their lives to achieve the victory. A- Um, and another thing I've been noticing is that okay, I'm going to call him out. I'm sorry. I really like this person, Ben Norton. He had this. He had this editorial on Bangladesh, and he said that the protesters were funded by America. And I'm like, no, it's like we had like our own January 6th, but I don't I don't know what your opinion on January 6th is, but I don't think it's as that objectionable. Like it's like
Mhm.
people like we had our own version where everyone stormed the parliament, the presidential palace,
Yeah.
and just stole random things like the fish out of the lake and books and yeah.
They stole fish.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, we store. And some of the people who stormed it are my family. Like my sister stormed it. Like she's not funded by anything. So it's not. But here's the thing: it there is reason to believe America supported this. Like the thing is, America like puts his nose in every single situation, and I can't help it. Like the people did want a revolution, but we cannot help if America like kind of comes in and supports it. The reason, the way they did it, everyone in Bangladesh kind of knows it, but it's not official. Like if you
Mhm.
talk to a random Bangladeshi and you ask him, like, do you think the American like State Department supported like your revolution? They were like, yeah, probably. It's
Mhm.
like, but it's like saying that again. Ben Norton called it a color revolution. Again, I really like him, and I don't know what, but it's like it's not a kind of not a color revolution because it wasn't, the protest wasn't built up by them. It was completely organic by the students. Um, but to say that is a color revolution, I think it's a bit too much because, but they did. I should tell you the way they did it. So when the protest started, the prime minister ordered the police to start shooting the people, and they did. They brought in the border, like the border guards. They started shooting at the people. They brought in the army. One of the things that the army did, they used UN vehicles, which, like, that they send to like African countries to do peacekeeping in
Yeah.
quotation marks. Yeah, like they use those vehicles, those tanks, those helicopters to shoot at people. But there was a bit of a conundrum within the army, though. Yeah, there was a bit of a um, so like basically the junior officers kind of did not like doing what they were being ordered to do.
Mhm.
Um, uh, but like the generals, like some of them, there was like it was not united. So basically, so some of them were shooting. They weren't as bad as the police or the other paramilitary forces, the military army.
Mhm.
So on August 5th, like on August 4th, I would say, on August 4th, last day, the army kind of stepped back. They started like just letting the protesters be. They did
Mhm.
not stop them. Like, and August 5th, when the people stormed the parliament, the prime ministerial palace, that's the prime ministerial palace. Apparently my parents were there. They told me that. So yeah, so they stormed that. The army did not do anything. So people are kind of guessing the State Department probably got a call with the general chief of staff and was like, stand down. Like, and he just stood down. He let it be, and the people kind of stormed it, and the prime minister ran away.
Well, okay. So as far as it being like January 6th, one of the things that a lot of people don't talk about, I'll say this, a lot of liberals do not talk about, is on January 6th, the police let them in.
Yeah,
The police let them in. And so when people talk about, oh my God, they were storming the Capitol, the thing is like, but they were allowed to, right?
yeah,
And so, when people talk about how it was horrible, it was like, well, yeah, it was because it was allowed to be horrible. It was allowed to happen that way. And, you know, unfortunately, some people did die because of some extremists that were in the group. I would argue that a majority of people, were, they did have some extremist views, but at the same time, a lot of them wanted to. They were cosplay revolutionaries.
yeah,
It was like they got the prize and they were like, so what do we do now? And then it's like,
yeah,
okay, let's go home. And then a few of them got arrested, but some of them were kind of serious. But ultimately, I mean, the people who let them in were the Capitol Police. But anyways,
yeah,
so as far as what's going on there, I found it hilarious that, and maybe I shouldn't find it hilarious. that the PM actually end up, fleeing because she was scared of the people. And I'm just like, wait a minute, Bangladesh is onto something here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because, for instance, here it says Bangladesh PM resigns and flees countries as protesters storm palace. Now, to those of us here in the West, particularly people who are more, liberal or conservative, a lot of them will say, "Oh my God, I can't believe they stormed the palace," and blah blah blah. But my thing is like, why were the people pushed to the point where they felt the need to storm the palace? Why would they feel the need to do this? Because ultimately, from what I can see, is that it was about their material conditions, their material needs,
Yes.
their jobs. Like, they were being stiffed. Would it be wrong of me to say that this was kind of a nepotism on steroids?
Oh yeah. It was like nepotism on steroids. It like, and the thing is, you need to understand, like, it is so corrupt. The country is so absolutely corrupt. We have an estimate like about, it's a very poor country. It's still a very poor country, and about like 25% of the GDP was stolen by these people. Like about $90 billion was stolen in the last 15 years. That is a crazy amount. Like I need you to like understand how corrupt it is. It's from my own personal experience. I'm going to tell you a story. I once went to the police station to do a report. Like I needed to get my voter ID and you need some stuff from the police station. Me and my dad were in there, and the cops were talking to one another. One of them is like reading a newspaper, and he's like talking to his other colleagues, like chilling and talking. They were like, and there was like crime stats on the newspaper, and he was like, "Hey, so this crime stats are going up. You know why it's going up? Because we're not doing enough crossfires. Crossfires are euphemism for extrajudicial killing." Yeah, so they pretend like, so yeah, like in Bangladesh, crossfire is a euphemism for extrajudicial killing. And these guys are just sitting and chilling and talking to each other like, dude, we're not doing enough crossfires. Yeah, that's how corrupt the country is. Like, that's where it was. Like, people cannot take it. It was every aspect of corruption. We don't have a lot of crime. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that Bangladesh is full with crime. It's not. But we do have a ton of white collar crime. Like, it's just unimaginable. Like, we have, yeah, that's the storming the prime ministerial palace. And
Yeah.
you know what? Shouts out to the Gen Z. Like, I don't have the bravery to do what they did. They gave their lives to do this. Yeah, and like they like, and another thing, like I've been hearing like on Twitter, it's mostly leftist who I usually love. Not really, some of them I love, but then it's like they were like saying it's like by wealthy college students. No, you need to understand. In Bangladesh, public universities are affordable, and it's like mostly like you get in. It's like even the poorest of people can afford it. People with no homes, homeless people can afford it. It's not free, but it's the fees are ridiculously cheap. It's irrelevant.
It's nearly free, right?
It's nearly
Basically.
free. It's near
Okay.
public universities. Now the private universities are very expensive, and that's for rich people. But the public universities are basically free, and like it's some of the poorest people, like poorest students from the poorest families who go to public university, and
Okay.
that yeah, and like it's not like rich kids, like it's not like, and the most elite university, which is like the Dhaka University, where most of the protests were coordinated from, it's like the best university in the country. Yeah, like also some of the poorest people go there, like from all over the country, because it's nearly
Yeah.
free. And
Yeah.
but the thing is, after they finish the universities, there's no jobs. It's like and government positions are allocated to just like pure nepotism. Jobs are it's just nepotism to build up power for one party. And another thing that's been going on since the revolution is attacks on Hindu minorities, which is like unfortunately a real thing. Yeah. So basically, some weirdos decided to burn down temples. It was an unfortunate. Like after August 5th, for the next couple of days, like weirdo Islamists and whatever decided to burn down temples. But then the people did step in, like random. Another fun fact: the police completely disappeared because the people wanted to kill them. Like the people wanted to like. There are like these videos of you seeing just random people trying to kill police and sometimes succeeding. About 200 cops died. Another thing Ben Norton said was the protesters attacking the police, which is, yeah, they are going to attack the police. And I don't know why is a leftist worshipping the police. Who gives a shit if they die? In my opinion, not your opinion. Who cares if they die? Like uh, about 190 cops who died. About more than 1,000 people died in the entire protest. 190 of them were cops, and the people did kill them, which is like, oh, and there's videos of them happening doing it, like in the most horrific. I would not say in the most horrific ways they were being killed, and the cops completely disappeared from the country. They were afraid of their lives. Um, it's and yeah, and the random like students took up the duties. They formed like their own like militias to protect the temples. They had their own traffic. Yeah, they just anarchists form. It was kind of anarchist. It's pretty dope. Like yeah, you should. It's like it's a dope thing to see like what's happening. Just people stepping into the country and doing it.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things that I am also worried about is the people, the protesters and the opposition parties and the military all came together and they decided to name a transitional government now, and that's what I'm worried about. The people they named, the chief advisor is a guy named Muhammad Yunus. He has a Nobel Prize. It's like he has an interview on Democracy Now from 2008. I don't know what's wrong with these people, but they get very impressed by Nobel prizes and Presidential Medal of Freedom, and he has all that stuff. So he's best friends with Bill Clinton. He's best friends with Emmanuel Macron. There's pictures of him kissing each other. It's like so basically he created this thing called microfinance. Which is I don't know how you would feel about. I'm a bit agnostic about it. It's like he would give high interest loans, but with no collateral, like to poor people, like small loans, but with no collateral, like to people who would otherwise not qualify for loans. Uh,
But they're high,
Sometimes
right?
they're high interest, they're about like 20%. So it's like, yeah, it's like
That's payday lending.
yeah, kind
That's
of.
payday lending. That's just that in itself is what I call that's legalized loan sharking.
You could say that, yeah. Um,
Yeah.
so so like some people would argue like some people did improve, some people like could not pay it back, but then if you can't pay it back you can't take out another loan because you've defaulted. It's like a whole thing, but yeah. So that happened and he got like Nobel Prize, which I find like utterly disgusting. Amy Goodman finds it very impressive. Yeah, she finds like, but anyway,
Yeah.
and the other people, like, there's some good people. Like, four of them are real. Two students from the organizers. Yes, there was a teacher who was also one of the protest organizers, who's like great. There's like around 4 or 5 people in the
Mhm.
cabinet that are great, but the rest are all from NGOs, all funded by like endowment for National Endowment for Democracy, USAID. Like it's just some of them are like utterly disgusting human beings. Like
Ooh.
there's this, yeah, like like I have a thing with NGOs in Bangladesh. Like I feel like they're there to like just steal money. Like they get money and they, like, one thing they did do good in Bangladesh, I'm not gonna say, is like reproductive rights. Like they were like on that, they were very good. Otherwise, I feel like they're just like stealing money. Like they're just there to steal money. And one of the things that family planning, yeah, like they implemented across, like it's just entirely up to the NGOs. They were funded by USAID, but they did implement incredible, like, uh, uh, yeah, contraceptive, like access to women having access to contraception and all that stuff, which was like across like even the most rural place in Bangladesh has access to family planning, contraceptive, like stuff like that. But other than that, like I don't see anything impressive they have ever done for the country. But yeah, again, like Western, like USA thinks that they're awesome. So it's basically, I feel like they have funneled all of these weirdos into the government. Like I am worried that these people are going to sell my country into to America. And unfortunately the people of Bangladesh have all become John Mearsheimers, and like they're like have all become realists, because we have a country next to us called India who has just opened, they have dams. So Bangladesh is basically a delta where all of the glaciers from the Himalayas melt and all the water drains into the from Bangladesh into the sea. India has like basically dams, hydroelectric dams, levees on all of these rivers. What they did now, right now, they opened the gates to one of the dams. After 34 years, they said they had to do it now. They had to do it now. After 34 years, they didn't open the gates of this dam for 34 years, and they flooded half the country is now underwater. Yeah. So people have all become, unfortunately, all the people in the country have become John Mearsheimers and realists, and they will like work with any country that like they it's not like particularly America, but they will work with China, any country that helps them stop like Indian aggression. Yeah, which is like which is like an unfortunate. I hope it's not America, because it's just American friends don't end up like, if you look at Pakistan and like if you look at Turkey, American friends don't end up in a good place. They only buy weapons. They have lots and lots of weapons and nothing else in the country. That happened. Yeah. You want to ask something?
Yeah, it's just wild to me because you know, Bangladesh is one of those countries that we don't hear as much about in the United States. It's kind of one of those things where you, like, for instance, you're the second person from Bangladesh I've ever met.
Oh,
yeah, and I'm 40 years old. You know, and I had a former worker that was from Bangladesh, but the thing is that we don't hear about that country much. And so when you find out about why, it's because Bangladesh is one of those countries where it's neither vilified nor it's never praised. And part of me feels like it's because, you know, they may have somebody that's very westernized, a Western puppet that tries to, you know, do what the West kind of wants to do. You know, they'll bend to the will of, you know, institutions like the IMF and the World Bank. And so it's like, well, we're not going to call them an enemy because they're playing along, but we're not going to praise them because, you know, they're not an imperialist power. So it kind of is like, you know, out of sight, out of mind. You know, that's kind of like what it feels like here. And so when you hear about the students and the young people rising up against their government for, you know, having an unfair, unequal, unequitable institution, like with the hiring on of people for their government, and they're rising up, and then the prime minister flees, and the agents of the state, the police, are punished, then it's like, wait a minute, we need to start hearing more about Bangladesh. We need to start learning a little bit more about what they're doing over there too, because it feels like they've reached a breaking point. And I'm not saying that I want violence to happen, right? What I'm saying is I want the fire of change to be just as bright in Americans just as they are in Bangladeshi people, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so one of the things I had a problem with, again, like some of the leftists commenting on the violence of the protest. I understand they want to be like, I understand they want to oppose American imperialism, as do I. But here's the thing: I cannot choose where America like in like involves itself in. Like I'm gonna have a revolution, and if this America like unfortunately involves itself in everything, and if they involve, I can't help it. Like I'm just like a normal guy, but I want to get rid of the guy, my oppressor, and like I cannot help if America decides to just step in. And by the way, the, the thing, yeah, like the prime minister is now saying America, the reason America opposed her is they wanted to establish like a naval port in one of the islands of Bangladesh, and she opposed it, not because she's like some awesome person, but because she was like basically like a she was basically an agent of India. She was basically doing anything India would say. Yeah, and that's why like she opposed the American expansion into Bangladesh. And the people of Bangladesh, unfortunately, they hate India so much that I feel like they're going to invite another devil into the country. Yeah, which is like, yeah, I don't want either of them. I really don't. And the thing with India is India's like such like insane. I need you to understand, the most people yeah, half the country is underwater. uh,
Wow.
and another thing that is worrying is some of the most satanic organizations, news organizations, are like doing pro Bangladesh pieces, like Deutsche Welle, like the German state news agency. Like in my
Mhm.
opinion, they're basically Nazis. Like
Wow.
if you like listen to them talk about how they talk about Palestine, how they talk about like reparation for like the French getting kicked out of West Africa, they sound like Nazis. But they're doing like pro Bangladesh protester pieces, which I'm like very worried about. Which is, why would you do that? You are not. I do not want to be associated with you. Like these people, like CNN is satanic in my opinion, and
Mhm.
they're doing like pro Bangladesh pieces. Like that's kind of worrying to me.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, and another thing
Sure.
about the Bangladesh India border, like the most in like the most death between two countries. It's not some, you would think like the most death would occur in border regions would be like South Korea, North Korea, but it's not. It's Bangladesh, India. Indians just kill our people, random people. Like, yeah, like they kill our farmers for no reason. It's like they just want to show, like imperialist power. They want to become the next empire. Basically, Modi wants to be an empire, and he's just doing insane things. And people like are not. It's obviously it's not acceptable for normal people.
Isn't Bangladesh, I think it's like 90% Muslim?
Yes, it's not 90, it's like 80 something, but yeah.
Yeah, okay. It's heavily majority Muslim country.
Yeah.
And from what I know, Modi is a what they call a Hindu nationalist.
Yes,
Is that
yes, he's a
correct?
psycho. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, as far as from what I know regarding somebody like Modi, Modi just does not like Muslims. Um,
Yeah, but it's like it's not like a Modi thing. It's like an entire India. There's a bipartisan, like even like the secular parties in India, Congress is like the same thing. Because the thing is, India, like if you listen to the Indian media, they have lost their minds since the revolution. They feel like because they assisted us in the 1971 revolution against Pakistan, not because they're great people, but Pakistan was their enemy and they wanted to break up Pakistan. Like, yeah, so they assisted us, and some of these people are sounding like fascists, Nazis. They're just like openly saying, like I've been watching a lot of Indian media, and they've been like openly saying because we assisted them with their freedom, we, due to the right of conquer, we should have like taken it over. Like it's like Israel talking points. And if you like look at Indians on Twitter, it's like they want to be Israelis very bad.
Wow, man. And this kind of trips me out because I'm thinking about India's relationship with like Russia and China, kind of a little bit with Brazil. But I'm thinking about their relationship with Russia and China and BRICS and how they're trying to create a more multipolar world. And I'm just like, wait a minute, Modi, if you are trying to unite with countries like Russia and China, especially ones that are trying to really democratize, the how the world does trade and resources. How are you advancing that by being the way you are to a religious population that encompasses what 3/5 of the world,
Yeah.
maybe more, and you're being hostile to them, or you're being hostile to Bangladesh, or you're being hostile to anybody who you know purports to follow the teachings of
Yeah, yeah.
Muhammad. It's like, how do you, because look at how the whole what's the word I want to use, the whole basically lie about the Uyghurs, right, in
Yeah, yeah.
China, right,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
how Chinese,
Everything.
they are actually just off hands with when it comes to the Uyghurs, but that's not the same thing for India, right?
Yeah,
When it
yeah.
comes to their
But the
Muslim
thing
help.
is, like, in you said like India and China and the BRICS. You need to, like, if people need to look at the history of India and China, they don't like. Shouts out to Mao. He went to war with India. Like India's. ba- So basically, during the British Empire, there wasn't the borders weren't as determined as it is today. Like, and when British ruled India, what the British would do is they would like have these adventures into China and just take over their land from India. Like, like they would move in from India, go into China and say, this is mine. So there are entire provinces of India that China claims, which kind of they have the right to claim because the British just took them from China. So in 1960, during the Cuban Missile Crisis, China invaded India. China invaded India and took like miles of India, and like India can't say shit about that. Shouts out to China. I really wish instead of America, like Bangladesh has like a alliances with China rather. And what kind, like, the thing about India is, what is wrong with you? What incredible thing are you doing that every single country around you hates you? Like Nepal, like nobody likes them. If you look at China, like if you look at Pakistan, if you look at Maldives, if you look at Sri Lanka, like Sri Lanka assassinated one of their prime ministers in the 70s. Yeah, like it's like, what great thing are you doing that every single country hates you around you, that hates you? Like,
Sounds like another country that's very familiar to me.
yeah,
I
yeah.
just can't think of, I can't think of which one.
Yeah, and the thing with China is, like, my opinion is that, okay, the British did that. Then why are you still claiming ownership of those territories? Like for like British adventurism, like there are entire provinces of India that China claims, which I kind of have agree with China. They have a right to claim. It's yeah.
But so wouldn't somebody call that colonialism on China's part?
Well, yeah, people would. Like, I wouldn't agree. Well, it depends on your perspective.
Hmm.
Would you accept it? Like, I don't know, what do you think? Would you accept it, like, because if you were colonized by a country and that country decided to go into the neighboring country and steal their land, and now because the neighbor was like, I don't know, that's a very good question. I didn't think of that. So like now the neighbor is now powerful, but he wasn't back then, and now the neighbor wants their land back.
Yeah, I mean, because thinking about it, if occupied India was taking the land of the Chinese, right? But then the Chinese go, okay, well, we're going to steal this land from you, and now it's almost like a tit for tat. But now, I would say technically India is no longer occupied by the West, though. I mean, the West still has its clutches, at least, at least, culturally, in some ways when it comes to India. But the fact is that would China be willing to now let that land go and say, you know what, you're no longer being ran by Britain anymore, so therefore, whatever hold that you have over Chinese territory, you guys let that go, and whatever hold we have over Indian territory, we'll let it go, and we'll just let bygones be bygones. I don't see why that can't happen, because it does it make sense? It feels like, I don't know if I would call it imperialism, but it's almost like a tit for tat kind of. I'm sorry, I wouldn't say it's colonialism, but it's almost like a tit for tat land grab. You know what I mean? And it's like,
Yeah.
that period is over, so therefore each one can now let go and go, okay, and plus you're in BRICS together now, so it's like there's more of a more friendly relationship now too.
Yeah, like I never thought of it that way. Yeah, but like the thing is, India wants to be America very bad. Like they want to be Israel very bad. Like, but the thing is, like I still do believe there's like parts of India that there are like good people, like real communists, Maoists. Like you should look into the Indian Maoists that are really dope. Like they do like actual revolutionary, like they do try to do revolutions. Yeah, so there's like parts of India that there's still like pretty dope. I think that can be yeah, like my biggest worry is like we're inviting the devil into our country to fight off another devil, and this devil doesn't leave. Like it's like a vampire. Once you invite him in, he's not going to leave.
Yeah. Well, honestly, this story is actually ever presently changing, especially when it comes to the interim government. My hope is that the interim government really listens to the people, not just a small sector like they do here in the United States, but to all the people, and start to have a more equal and equitable government. Another question, though, before I let you go, I would like to ask this: is what about the people who are currently employed within the government who got those positions through nepotism? Have they been kicked out, or are they still in there?
Oh no, they are hiding for their lives. I have family members who supported that government. They're hiding. Like I hope like the way they're being killed are like it's like I saw a video of the people drowning a mayor in a lake. Yeah, the mayor of a city was drowned in a lake. Like and they took videos of it. Like they will be killed. Like they are trying to run away. So the prime minister of is actually in Bangladesh right now. She's trying to get asylums in US and the UK, which obviously she's not going to get. Yeah, like I actually saw social media posts from America. Her son lives in Virginia. They were like thinking of like yeah, but they're insane people. Like they were thinking of forming like a gang and getting him from Virginia, from like Bangladesh. She's living in America. Yeah, I don't think. Yeah,
Ooh, wow.
like they're like I have family members who supported the government. I have like yeah, they're not no way to be seen. They are hiding.
Look, it's funny. We all, those of us on the left, will talk about, oh man, France is doing it. They'll spray the presidential building with manure, and then they'll have protests in the streets. Bangladesh said, "Hold my beer."
Yeah, yeah, like yeah, and I have like a criticism of that. Like let's take January 6th again. One of like I was listening to Hassan, which and he Piker, and he was like making the argument. Imagine if they got to AOC. And my thing is like, why would anyone care if they got to AOC? Wouldn't piss on me if I was on fire. Why do I care about her so much? Like, what is wrong with you? It's like peasant mentality. Yeah, that's a thing from the people at Due Dissidents. It's pretty. I like that.
Yeah, what's going on there is, you know, I I'm really I'm hoping that this is a I'm hoping that this is the seed planted for a true people's revolution there. That's what I'm hoping for, because ultimately, the systems of capitalism that are present in places like Bangladesh, once that goes away, that's a whole nother area where they're changing and having a more equitable government. And then hopefully people within the region, like for instance, like Sri Lanka and Pakistan, and Nepal and all those other countries in the region, they take a look and say, wait a minute, they're also revolutionizing their government for a more egalitarian government. What can we do? And so that's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah. One more thing before I go, I have to suggest one thing. I see like RBN shitting on Kyle Kalinske a lot, but would you include Sam Cedar as well? I think he's far more evil. Like, just a suggestion. Like, he says far more insane things.
As far as Sam Cedar is concerned, Sam Cedar in my view is a honorable I'm just kidding. I'm messing with you. Yeah, Sam Cedar is in with the people who are in corporate media. I mean, he was part of MSNBC. Sam Cedar is one of those people who, honestly, in my view, is controlled opposition used in independent media to kind of play on the heartstrings of the people who feel cheated by this system, but then tells you to keep trying to reform the system right now.
Yeah.
And in my view, he's doing a huge disservice because he calls himself somebody on the left, but then says, keep going back. You're a bull that was just cut by the slaughter. Go back to that slaughter. They don't actually mean to cut you. They don't want to.
Oh my word! Like October 7th was,
you're headless.
Yeah, like October 7th for me, like I just stopped calling myself a leftist. After October 7th, like I found them so disgusting. Like the condemnation of the Palestinian resistance, and shouts out to RBN for being the only people who didn't condemn it. Yeah, like everyone just lined up. I condemn. Yeah, I condemn. Like, okay, why don't you show me how it's done? Like, I want to tell these people, go there, go live in Gaza, and demonstrate to me how to do it properly.
Well, I mean, look, here's the thing. According to international law, and I'm not just saying this as to lean on international law, because sometimes, some laws can be unjust. But according to international law, an occupied people have the right to resist the occupier. That being said, the Palestinians have the right to resist the occupation of the settler colonial state, also known as Israel. I will go even further. The Puerto Ricans have a right to actually resist the occupation of the United States of America. The Hawaiians have a right to resist the occupation of the United States of America. Look what Niger did. They had a right to resist the occupation of France. So all these countries, look, the Native Americans in this country have a right to resist the occupation of the U.S., to be honest with you. And so when it comes to these illegal occupations that we see, imperialism and colonialism only serves the most powerful. It does not serve all the people, especially the people who are indigenous to a region. And so to sit here and to kind of hand-wring about how somebody resists when other avenues have been tried. The peaceful avenue has been tried. The March to Return, when they went to the fence to peacefully protest, and then the IDF was literally shooting them in kneecaps as they were trying to peacefully protest to go back to their homes, which they still have the keys to. And you mean to tell me that, oh, well, they're just doing it wrong? So you mean they're doing the "we shall overcome" wrong?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so when peaceful means are exhausted, what's the alternative? What's the alternative once you've exhausted all peaceful means?
Yeah, like these people would have hanged Nat Turner if they were the judge at that court where Nat Turner was ordered to be hanged. They would say, yeah, he killed children. Nat Turner did kill children. He beheaded children. They would say, yeah, he beheaded children. Law says he should be killed. He should be killed.
My, I don't even know if all that was true. I gotta do my research a little bit more. But my thing is, as far as people like Nat Turner, as far as people like Nelson Mandela, as far as the Black Panther Party, how many people would disagree with them fighting against their oppressor?
I'm sorry, like I don't care if like I don't care about the white people that got killed in Nat Turner's revolution. I mean, they stood there and they watched slavery happen and they did nothing about it. Like,
well, I'll put it this way: the enslavers put their people in harm's way by, putting them in that situation to be occupiers and enslavers. And I find that reprehensible, the fact that you would actually put your people in that situation. But it just reminds me of what
like if you look at, like, I'm reading about the Comanche Indians in Oklahoma and Texas. Like, they were vicious. Like, I believe they were like one of the tribes to be defeated by the American army. And the reason why they were the last is they were insanely brutal to their colonizers. Like, once they got them, like, should I condemn that? No, I'm not going to condemn that.
Yeah, and my thing is like, when you put somebody in a prison, in a concentration camp, then what do you expect them to do when they resist and go and try to free themselves out of said concentration camp? You can't sit here and try to moralize people who are trying to liberate themselves. And so that's why when it comes to people who are trying to resist, I can't necessarily condemn them for, resisting being oppressed. I can't. It's not fair for me to do so. And also, as somebody who is a descendant and a victim of imperialism and a victim of colonization, I cannot in good conscience, condemn a group of people who are being oppressed in that way. I can't.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, like, if I have to condemn them, then I have to condemn Nat Turner. If I have to condemn them, then I have to condemn my ancestors who resisted oppression.
Yeah. You know what I feel like when that happened? I feel like they're going to say all the good things. These people who condemn Hamas is like going to say all the good. They're very upset Palestinians are dying. They were very upset Africans are dying in Africa. Like, they're going to be very upset. But they would really like them to see them in the museum. They want to be upset about it when they're like all gone and dead and they're in a museum. Like they honestly, like the Native Americans in America and South America, like how they're basically wiped out. They're irrelevant as a political force right now. They're all in a museum. They go to the museums and they're very upset about it. But they wouldn't do anything to change it, fundamentally change it.
Yeah, I want to share this because this is actually this is relevant to what we're talking about. You've probably seen this before, but it's an oldie but goodie. But I would like to share this. Let me see. I don't know why it's way over here, but it's okay. So this is Kwame Ture.
Oh yeah, shout out.
I'd just like to state an opinion. You said that capitalism is backwards and it should be destroyed.
Vicious,
Stupid,
reactionary, and
repulsive.
barbaric. No, I didn't use the word
Yeah.
repulsive. That's too mild.
Well, I'd just like to state my opinion that I think violence is barbaric and stupid, and that's my.
He said violence is stupid, barbaric, and repulsive. All right.
Okay.
So, you know, just saying that in a blanket term, then that means that the violence by the state is also stupid, barbaric, and repulsive as well.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. No. He
Yeah.
means like violence by the oppressed is barbaric. Violence by the state is dope.
Yeah. Okay. Let's continue.
My opinion.
But please, may I ask you a question? Please.
He thought he cooked. Hang on. He walked away thinking that he cooked. He was like, I think it's stupid, barbaric, and repulsive. And he's trying to be like the guy with the moral high ground. Like, I think it's stupid, barbaric, and repulsive because I have a college education and you're just being stupid, barbaric, and repulsive. That's all. And Kwame Ture takes him to school. Gosh, I'm so happy that's my birthday twin. So let's hear a masterclass just simply asking a question.
And that's my opinion.
But please, may I ask you a question? Please. Just for clarification. All right, now, I'm not sure, are you agreeing that capitalism is bad or you don't think it's bad?
I didn't say.
Huh?
I didn't say anything about it.
But what do you think about it?
Capitalism?
Yes.
Well.
Now, you see how you paused for a long time, right?
Yeah.
Because he has no opinions on capitalism. Because if you don't have an opinion, that means you never thought about it. You never thought about the system that you're in. And this is the problem. A lot of people don't think about the system that they're in and why things are the way they are and what's the source of why things are the way they are. And once you start to think about the source, then you start to come to actual rational conclusions. The problem is that a lot of people do not think about it because they're told not to think about it. They're told this is the only way things are. And it's just like the old phrase goes, people can imagine the end of the world before they imagine the end of capitalism. This is what it is. He can imagine the end of the world, but when it comes to ending the system, it's like, oh, well, that's just the way things are. So
shouts out to those guys from the 60s, like Black revolutionaries. Yeah, like the reading them is pretty dope. Yeah, I feel like a lot of the oppressed people in the America, which is like basically the imperial core. I talk about America like a lot on Twitter as well, because like they have so much power. It's like everything else is irrelevant. Yeah, like a lot of the formerly oppressed people, like especially in the middle class, have decided to join in on the oppression. Like they think it's dope. Like if you look at the DNC, which I didn't watch, it's like disgusting. Yeah, like they think it's why. Yeah, it's sad. Like to go from him to like Cory Booker. It's
Absolutely. Let's listen to Kwame Ture cook.
Well, let me ask you this question.
I live in a capitalist society.
Okay, let me make it easier.
Okay, yeah, please.
If you were a slave and I were your master, and the only way for you to be free was to strike your blow to kill me, what would you do?
And there it is. There it is.
You didn't answer?
Yeah, like
I didn't hear him answer.
yeah, but the white guy was stupid. Like even he have had like a tougher question. What if like the somebody kills like a child, like or like some random innocent person? Like the white guy was stupid. He could have framed his question in a better way. Like even then, I would say no, go away.
Yeah, I would have been like, come back. What do you mean? Like, of course, if somebody, it's just like, for instance, what is one of the things we tell when we tell people in an active shooter situation here in the United States? Sorry, we're in the United States. We have active shooters here.
Yeah.
In an active shooter situation, we're told to do things like run, or then hide, or then we're told to fight, right? Because if you're in a situation where you're cornered in, the best thing to do is actually to fight back, right?
Yeah.
If you fight back, or let's say this, if I have a daughter, and if I teach her that if some random man grabs you, I want you to curse at the top of your lungs, scream, bite, poke his eyes out, kick him in the crotch. If I tell her to do that, everybody will go, yep, that's what you do. You tell that little girl to do that stuff to save her life. Why can't we tell our people to do the same thing when it comes to these governments, to these occupiers? Why in the world do we accept that they can just do whatever they want to us?
Yeah.
But people don't want to hear that. They don't want to hear you fight for your own liberation unless it's on an individual level. Then it's like, well, okay, then you can fight for that. But then collectively, if we try to fight for our own liberation, then it's like, wait, that's too much? Does that make any sense?
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't make any sense. Like how we talk about liberation on an individual level, but we never talk about liberation on a collective level.
Like these people, like I watch like leftist contents. Like I just hate leftists now. I'm sorry. Like so many of them are just so evil. Like I hate them. Like that's why I call myself a communist. I'm not even a leftist. They're disgusting. It's like so many of them want to see like just they want to read about it. They don't want to do it. They're too comfortable in like in their situation. They're like, yeah, I have a warm bed at night. Like who cares if the other one doesn't? I'm okay with that.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's a whole nother conversation I can get into because it's sick because it's just like, screw other people's liberation. If, I got mines off of their exploitation, that's pretty much, unfortunately, that's how social democracies are built.
Yeah, it's just, yeah. And like social democracy is like basically I live in Europe. Like if you like not Portugal, but like if you listen I was in Germany. If you like listen to these people, they're Nazis. They haven't been denazified. Like I think the Soviets should have taken over the entirety of Germany instead of America. And yeah, denazification didn't completely work.
Oh man. But so as far as anything that you're doing on the ground, where people can find you, get in touch.
Oh, like I'm a shit poster on Twitter. Like imperialism bad. Yeah.
Would you have insights of what's going on in Bangladesh? So you were able to come in and educate us on that.
I post about Bangladesh and Palestine mostly. Also, I shit on leftists. Like I hate them.
I got you. Well, I mean, I used to call myself a leftist, so
No, I wouldn't say all leftists, but like a significant portion of the left is just repulsive and disgusting. Like I would like, it's I got into left politics because of Kyle Kalinske. I'm disgusted with myself because of that. Like, what am I? Yeah. But shouts out to RBN, due dissidents, like they're pretty dope.
Yeah. Hopefully, and one thing I'm learning is that we're giving some people who may call themselves leftists, who may not be where we are, some grace so that they can, eventually move to the more enlightened position. So that's what I'm trying to. What I have my channel to help, inform and educate people to, move to a more egalitarian position. We all started somewhere. I definitely voted for a Democrat in 2018, so
I was reading Sam Harris. So at 14, I was reading Sam Harris. So yeah, we changed.
Man. Yeah. But thank you so much. It was so good to have you. And look, I'll have you back on. We can talk about news stories and what's going on around the world.
Definitely. Thanks for having me. Enjoy the convo.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Nice to have you.
Bye.
Bye-bye. All right, everybody. Thank you so very much for that. Go ahead and give the stream a like. Appreciate it very much. That means the world to me. Also, if you guys have not already, just to let you guys know, next week, I will be in Tampa, Florida. Of course, Chairman Omali Yeshitela, Penny Hesson, Jesse Neville, also known as the Uhuru 3, will be put on trial in Tampa, Florida next week. I will be there to stand in solidarity with them and also to report on the ground what's going on in Tampa. So if you guys would like to, just make sure to tune in. So I will go live tomorrow. Tuesday next week. So just go ahead and, stay tuned for that. And I will be leaving early in the morning. So I will be in Tampa. Tampa's like an hour and a half from Orlando, so it's not that far. But I will be out there. And I'll shout out to everybody that helped contribute to me getting that bus ticket so I can get out to Tampa. It means a lot. And I cannot wait to get out there to, be able to shake the chairman's hand and be out there to interview all the supporters who are out there as well. Because, we got to stand with our people, man. We got to stand with them. And shout out to the African People's Socialist Party, the Uhuru movement. And I hope justice comes, especially because they should not have to go through being, put through the ringer of the justice system when they have done nothing wrong. So thank you very much for that. All right, everybody. So I'm going to go to the chat really quick, say hello to a few people, and then we'll get on with our show. So, of course, we said hello. We say hello to Terry Connolly. Says, good afternoon, JB and Bam. We have Wadi saying, hey, everybody. DJ Leader says, Traffic Tuesday to you, JB and RB and Fam. Yes, thank you very much. Colin says, Brian Berletic and Ben Norton also have great coverage on this essentially U.S.-backed coup co-opting revolutionary movements. Thank you very much. Bryce coming in saying, morning, JB, sup everyone. Thank you so very much for that. Social emotional learning with Dr. Donnie says, also, I just want to say, my ex is Indian Punjabi farmer dude. And man, India is definitely a post-colonial struggle kind of place. Woo! You telling me. All right, let me go here. Let me see. Dr. Donnie says, power to the people of Bangladesh. Yeah, Colin says, if the military and the police and military support either former or current government, revolutionary movement is in trouble. Yeah. Man. Wardy says, say hi to everybody in Tampa first, JB. Yep. Thank you. Roger Meadows says he meant shit lips. Tomato. All right. So let me check the Rumble, see if I have any Rumble rants. Let's see here. Looks like we're good. All right. So let's move on to our next subject. This is going to be a deep one. And for those of you who are watching that know of anyone that is, for anyone that you know that is a former felon that was in prison, if you are a former felon that's in prison, especially in Florida, but even if you're not in Florida, I want you guys to pay attention to this because this is going to be a deep subject I want you guys to hear about. And we have some things to talk about. So, expanding democracy. What about felons being able to vote here in Florida? Are we talking about? This was an article that came out in Orlando Weekly that I want to discuss, but we got to get the history behind it, and I want to cover that first. And so I think this is going to be good, especially for many of us when we have this election coming up in 3 months. I want everybody to be able to have the opportunity to make their voices heard here. If you're a felon, do you feel that you should have the opportunity to vote once again if that vote has been taken away from you because of you being in prison? If you are someone who feels that they don't deserve the vote again, let me know why in the comments. There was a vote that happened back in 2018. I remember this because, well, it was my first vote ever cast. My first vote in 2018 was for the Democratic mayor. I'm sorry, the Democratic, Mayor Andrew Gillum. He was running for governor, and he was running on things like Medicare for all, right? But there was a ballot initiative in 2018. And that ballot initiative gave former felons the right to vote again. Once they exited out of prison and they paid their time, they have the right to vote again. And when it passed, we were celebrating, right? It passed in Florida. In Florida, red state, Florida. We said, you paid your time, all right, you get that privilege to vote back. I thought voting was a right, not a privilege, but what do I know? But then the Republicans said, hey, wait. We can't make it that easy. You can't express your voice and then get this right. No, we got to throw a monkey wrench in there. So we're going to talk about that monkey wrench. We're going to talk about the vote that happened. And then we'll get into a little bit of good news as well and what has happened. So let's go here. And let's start.
Think all the way back to August of 2005. Right. When I was in South Florida, in Miami-Dade County, I was homeless. I was hooked on crack, cocaine, unemployed, recently got out of prison. And I was standing by these railroad tracks and I was waiting on a train to come so I can jump in front of it.
Desmond Meade knows how to fight. He's battled his demons, his addiction, and his homelessness. Then he undertook a fight that would have huge consequences for the nation's largest swing state, the right of felons to vote. And he won until he lost.
If the system was working properly, then I would not have had to organize everyday citizens from all walks of life to actually launch a ballot initiative, right? This issue would have been taken care of a long time ago.
Amendment 4 passed in 2018, returning voting rights to some 1.4 million felons.
1.4 million people given back the right to vote. Can that swing an election? You and I both know that as someone who is what we call post-duopoly, I am not a Democrat. I am not a Republican. I do not see any type of true working for the people in either one of those parties. With that being said, I believe voting is a right, not a privilege. And in doing so, I feel that giving felons the right to vote after they come out of prison, after they serve their time, I feel is a step in the right direction. Because if they can get a driver's license once again after leaving prison, right? Why not give them the right to be able to vote again? You know? But that's a lot of people. Let's continue.
But Republicans in the state quickly responded by passing a law requiring all outstanding legal fees and fines to be paid before people with felony convictions could cast a ballot. Many activists say the new law is a poll tax, keeping mostly Black people from being able to cast ballots. So Meade leveraged his network again, this time to pay off those fines and fees.
We rallied the entire country. Over 88,000 people, right, donated over $25 million, right, to our fines and fees fund.
While trying to get those paid off, Meade's group was also trying to register as many people as possible.
Hello, how you doing, sir? My name is Connie Burton, and I'm with Florida Rights Restoration Coalition.
What happened with the young man at the door?
He seemed to kind of be bewildered a little bit and honest by just indicating he didn't know. He didn't know that voter registration had stopped. And he also said that he couldn't vote because he had a background challenge. And I just felt like, wow, this is the person I've been looking for all day.
Now, hang on. How many people have a felony on their record? There's a lot of people who have felonies on their record. And just because they have that, should that take away their right to vote once they've served their time? What if it's felony possession of a controlled substance? Right? And the possession was really technically a victimless crime where you were using it for yourself. You didn't harm anyone except for yourself. And then you go to prison, you serve the felony conviction, and then you get out. But now, because of that, your right to vote, your right to actually speak is revoked. And the fact is that we, the people of Florida, gave them back that right. We gave it back. But now they have to pay back all these fees and fines before they can vote. So what this basically is it's not only targeting Black people, but it's targeting poor people because they do not want people who are poor, who are heavily affected by this capitalist system, to vote. And even more so, the people who are poor and Black who say that both parties are trash and they walk away from the duopoly, that's their worst nightmare. People who would be poor like myself, like if I had a felony conviction, they could say, well, you haven't paid us back, so therefore you can't vote. Because somebody like me who's post-duopoly, there's many people who realize that, for instance, how many people would vote against the Democrat and Republican in the state? It was just released that the Republicans, I forget in which state it was, but they're trying to kick the Libertarian Party off the ballot. The Republicans. The Democrats have been trying to kick the Green Party off the Wisconsin ballot. So the thing is that they want you to stay within the frame of the duopoly. They want you to stay within the confines of a system that will keep you exploited, because you have good cop and bad cop, but in the end, they're still both cops. They still want to get you. It's the same thing with the Democratic and Republican parties, right? And so this is a means that take the voice away from the people who are the most affected by the system in a negative sense. Let's continue.
Connie Burtman is trying to get people into the booth, but a new investigation shows state Republican efforts to keep felons from voting is working. Only 31,400 registered to vote since January of 2019.
Out of 1.4 million, 34,000? That's an extremely low number compared to how many they could have actually registered.
Since January of 2019, a small fraction of the state's former felons.
Do you feel like Governor DeSantis is implementing the will of the people right now?
Oh, no way. I absolutely not. You know, I think it's the contrary. You know, people have voted for second chances. And here's the beautiful part, that we brought people together from all walks of life, all political persuasions. Over 1 million people that voted for Amendment 4 also voted for him, right? Which showed that we had a broad cross-section of support for second chances. The ones.
Hang on. Now, another thing I want to say about this is that people will say that Ron DeSantis believes in democracy. No, he doesn't, because this is expanding democracy. Giving former felons the right to vote again is expanding democracy. Wait, hang on. If you agree with Donald Trump getting the right to vote for himself in the 2024 election, if you agree, and if you agree that your voice should not be paywalled, even if you're conservative, you should agree that people who are felons should have the right to vote again, former felons. And what the Republican Party did, the party of Trump did, is absolutely wrong. Also, while we're on the subject of Trump, wasn't it Donald Trump that passed the First Step Act, which he basically helped release a lot of non-violent felons? That's what Donald Trump did, right? Wouldn't it have been a beautiful thing if Donald Trump released those non-violent felons and then they also got their right to vote again? Imagine how many of those voters would have actually voted for Donald Trump if they had the right to vote again. But because Ron DeSantis blocked it, he stepped on his own toes. Think about it. He stepped on Donald Trump's toes. Because some of them felons could have said, you know what? Donald Trump, he actually did it. And they would have voted for Donald Trump because he actually affected their lives in a positive way with the First Step Act. But then here comes little Ronnie. Ronnie came in and said, no, You don't get a voice. Me. Sorry, I made him sound like Ted Cruz. But the point is, that's what happened. Donald Trump, and the fact that Donald Trump was actually thinking about picking Ron DeSantis as vice president says a lot about Donald Trump too. But the fact that Ron DeSantis did that, they never really truly cared about expanding democracy. That's just used as an excuse. All right.
So I go in there and represent what our cause right now. Amendment 4, return of citizen, right? What we stand on the Amendment 4. Let my people vote. Let my people vote. Y'all go in there and do it for me.
On the same day President Trump cast his ballot in Palm Beach, Vino Holloman cast his first ballot in 20 years. He's registered in Gadsden, the county with the highest percentage of newly registered voters who served time for a felony.
Who did you vote for in there today?
Joe Biden, Harris.
Ooh.
You know, we got to get rid of Trump. Sorry, Trump, but yeah.
Do you have a lot of friends or family that can't?
You know why he said sorry, Trump? Because of the First Step Act. But guess what? And my thing is like, look, if I were him, I'd be eating those words right now because I'd be like, I can't believe I voted for Joe Biden. Because Joe Biden is the reason why Donald Trump has the power that he has right now. But at the same time, I am still happy that he has his right. He had his right returned. And ultimately, everybody, really, in my opinion, bar for some, horrible people who have done some horrible crimes, should have the right to vote. But it's weird.
Vote in this election?
I'm sure I do.
How does that make you think about your vote?
It counts. It counts. All votes count. Just the more you get, the better it is.
Do you think that returning citizens can swing the vote here in Florida?
Sure. Yes, of course. Of course. You just take people to push them. If they don't know about it, then they won't do it.
But voters like David Jones are still in limbo. He wants to vote, but can't afford to pay off what he owes.
How much are your outstanding fines and fees?
$1,500. Yeah. I went to the courthouse, a couple of years ago to check to see how much it was. It was $1,500.
Explain how FRRC is trying to help you right now.
Well, from what I understand, that they pay off fines and fees for ex-felons. So I fell in that category. They said that anything up to $1,500, they can pay it, just pay it right away.
Do you think you will be able to vote on November 3rd?
I do. I have faith that I will be able to.
Sorry about that. But as far as I can see, I love that there's a program to help people being able to pay off their fines and fees to be able to vote again. But that shouldn't have to exist. I honestly think that this law against it should be overturned. And what we know now is that the law that they did and making it so that former felons now have to pay fines and fees before they can vote again, some of them do not know, even if they paid it off, they don't know if the ability to vote is restored or not. They made it ambiguous and convoluted. They just don't know. And so this brings us to our article that I would like to share. Now, this is mildly good news. It is in the right direction, but we should still not have a paywall when it comes to former felons being able to vote. So this is out of Orlando Weekly. It says proposal could add clarity to voters' constitutional amendment to restore felon voting rights. The blurb reads, it is crucial that individuals seek to vote, especially during an election season, receiving clear guidance on their eligibility. So this came out a few days ago. So it says state election officials are moving forward with an updated process aimed at providing more clarity for people seeking to determine if they are eligible to vote after a federal lawsuit over the handling of the constitutional amendment that restored voting rights to felons who completed their sentences. A proposed rule released Thursday by the State Division of Elections includes a one-page form for felons requesting what are known as advisory opinions from state lawyers to clarify they're eligible to vote. The proposal will give state election officials 2 weeks to determine whether a form is complete, require notification of the felon within 14 days of the specific deficiency or the need for any specific additional information, and mandate that the state respond within 90 days of receiving the request for an advisory opinion. Desmond Meade, executive director for the Florida Rights Restoration Coalition, who helped advocate for the 2018 constitutional amendment, called the proposal a step forward by the state. So, moving on to, says confusion over voter eligibility stems from the controversial 2019 law that Governor Ron DeSantis and Republican-controlled legislator approved to carry out the constitutional amendment, which said voting rights would be restored upon completion of all terms of their sentence, including parole or probation. The amendment excluded people convicted of murder or felony sexual offenses. The 2019 law required felons to pay legal financial obligations, fees, fines, and other court costs associated with their convictions before they could be eligible to vote. But tracking down records related to sentencing has been problematic, time-consuming, and in some instances, impossible, according to election supervisors and lawyers familiar with the process. It says, in addition, lawmakers at DeSantis' behest in 2022 created the Office of Elections Crimes and Security. Since then, more than 24 people have been arrested for voting illegally. Many of the people who were arrested said they were convicted felons who believed they were eligible to vote and were provided voter registration cards by election officials. It says the Florida Rights Restoration Coalition and individual plaintiffs filed lawsuits again last year that described the bureaucratic morass encountered by felons trying to find out if they were eligible to vote. The lawsuit outlined months-long delays in responses to requests for advisory opinions, many of which not offer resolution about voter eligibility. My question is, if you cannot vote because you still owe fees and fines, then why is the supervisor of elections allowed to give you a voter registration card? Sounds to me like that's a good excuse to put people back into prison. It's recidivism via registering to vote. You're pulling them back into the system on purpose. That's what you're doing. You want those people back in prison. Ron DeSantis wants those people back into prison because they dared try to vote. Because they dare register. That's who Ron DeSantis is. And so now these people who had records in the past that served their time are coming back to try to vote. And now, because they dare try to, now it's illegal for them because they didn't pay, because they didn't have enough money, because their vote is based on their income. Their vote is based on their economic status. Their ability to speak to their government is based on the money in their pockets or based on the money they have in their bank account. Is that real democracy? Is that democratic? And people can go, oh, well, if they did a crime, then that's on them. So you're saying that if you drank and drive and you got felony DUI, but you didn't harm anybody, your right to vote should be revoked after you serve your time? So you don't believe in second chances. What about the people who have done nothing wrong, but they still got a felony? What about them? How many people that you love had a felony? How many people that you revere have had a felony? How many people who are in government have done something wrong and they probably got a felony? So do you believe that Donald Trump should no longer have the right to vote because he committed felonies? That's my thing, right? And people want to go, well, they shouldn't have done it. Well, then Donald Trump should have done what he did. Did he? Joe Biden should have done what he did he? Because guess what? If you're a liberal, then guess Joe Biden also committed felonies too. And guess what? After he gets out of office, some people are going to try to come after him, especially for the Hunter Biden laptop issue. So if you're a liberal and you're shaking your head and nodding your head about what I said about Trump, oh, you better be doing the same thing about Joe Biden too. So the thing is like that's what gripes me about these people. They talk a good game about, oh, we're for democracy, until it's actually time to give people or allow people to exercise their right for democracy. Anyway, let's continue. It says, after mediation between the state and the plaintiffs, election officials held a rule development workshop in June. During the workshop, Leon County Supervisor of Elections, Mark Ely, pointed to a backlog of people who are uncertain about their voting statuses. He says, we're hearing that our voters and prospective voters who are, frankly, as they told me, they're concerned about whether they should try to get registered because they just don't know what their status is. It is very difficult to determine that. You literally have people who are afraid to register to vote because they're afraid they'll be arrested. Imagine being afraid to register to vote because you're afraid you'll be arrested. This is the Ocoee Massacre all over again. The Ocoee Massacre happened in the early 20th century to a bunch of Black people who dared try to vote. And they were murdered in Ocoee, Florida, for trying to vote. Now you have a lot of Black people, particularly, who are in fear of being arrested because they dared try to vote. It's the Ocoee Massacre all over again, man. It says the proposed rule on Thursday, they will require advisory opinions to include one of three responses. First one is, you are eligible to register to vote. Next one, you are ineligible to register to vote. Or the third one, the Division of Elections lacks credible and reliable information concerning your eligibility to register or to vote. Therefore, based on your good faith belief that all terms of the sentence have been satisfied, the information available to the division and the division's review of available information, nothing precludes you from registering and voting. It says the revamped process likely will not be finalized before the October 7th deadline to register to vote in the fall election. So they're talking about streamlining, and it says for years we have advocated the need for reforms on the front end of the election process, considering that there was no deadline in place before. This updated process will help ensure the clarity and assurances for Floridians on their voting eligibility. People's lives in the election systems will be improved by these changes. So that is the article, and hopefully this system will happen where people can know, well, look, your voting rights have been restored, or they won't get in trouble if it hasn't, and then they go, well, we didn't know. So there has to be some clarity in this process, but this process shouldn't have to exist in the first place. I'm going to put this to you right, because a lot of people think, well, it's just a vote for either one of the two parties. No, you can also vote third party here in Florida. The Libertarian Party and the Green Party, and I think Dr. Cornel West, I think he's registered also. I think he has ballot access here in Florida too. But you can vote outside of duopoly. But really importantly, you can vote on ballot initiatives. How many former felons who get the right to vote again would vote yes on amendments like Amendment 1, which talks about giving the school board the ability to either be a partisan election or not? Or what about Amendment 3, which I spoke about last week, which legalizes recreational marijuana? Or how many of those 1.4 million that supposedly gets their voting rights restored would vote in favor of the next ballot initiative, Amendment 4, that I'll be talking about in a little bit, about abortion? How many of them would vote in favor of it? In 2020, we literally passed a $15 an hour minimum wage in Florida, in a red state. We passed that. And now we're on our way to being $15 an hour by 2026. We're at $12 an hour now. Next month, we're hitting 13. But people who were former felons, if they get the right to vote back, guess what? What if we are able to raise it even higher, to make the base even higher? What if we Floridians got on the ballot a single-payer healthcare bill as a ballot initiative in Florida? How many of those people who are poor, who are former felons, would vote for that? I see the hamster running on the wheel in your head right now. This is why I think it is deeply important that we talk about this issue, because ultimately it's about the voice of the people being heard. I have something else that I want to play. I'll get into that in a second. Let me see. I think I had something else. I had another piece that I wanted to talk about. Oh, there was this video. Was that a video? I can't remember. Let me see. There was another I'm sorry, guys. What was it? It was oh. Let's see. Yeah, there was a here it is. I also wanted to show this as well. I don't know why I deleted that tab. My apologies, guys. Okay, so I also wanted to share this, and here's another point of mine. If somebody who has committed a felony is in prison in a particular area, and you're counting them in that particular district for when it comes to how they're represented in the House, right? In the House of Representatives, then their voice should be heard. If you're going to count them in that way to be a part of the population, their voice deserves to be heard. Let me show you this. It says your body being used where prisoners who can't vote still fill voting districts. So, sorry about that. So it says Robert Alexander has been away home for more than a decade. He spends his nights spent locked up behind walls topped with barbed wire. Prison kind of gives you that feeling like you're on an island. So it says that's from Alexander, who is getting his bachelor's degree in Bible studies. It says clad in an oversized gray sweatshirt and under fluorescent lights under the visiting room of Wisconsin's oldest state prison. He is more than 70 miles from his last address in Milwaukee. It says, but if Alexander and his more than 1,200 fellow prisoners are still incarcerated at Waupun Correctional Institution, next Census Day, April 1st, the Census Bureau will officially consider them residents of Waupun, Wisconsin for the 2020 national head count. That's because since the first U.S. Census in 1790, the federal government has included incarcerated people in the population counts of where they were in prison. The technical detail of a little-known policy can have an outsized impact on prison towns across the U.S. for the next decade. It says in many cases, rural, predominantly white towns see their population numbers boosted by population counts from prisons disproportionately made up of Latin and Latine people. In turn, states which control how voting districts are drawn and local community governments can use those numbers to form districts filled predominantly with people who are locked behind bars and cannot vote in almost all states. Maine and Vermont are the exceptions. Officials in some prison towns have come up with creative ways to avoid forming voting districts made up of primarily of prisoners. But in many others, political lines are drawn around prisons in a way that districts deride as prison gerrymandering. So if you can see here, it says maps, see how government's forming their boundaries. So here's Florence, Arizona, right? It says the total population in 2010 incarcerated was 17,700, but not incarcerated, it's only 7,836. Says Florence avoids the issue of drawing districts around prisons by holding at-large elections where all voters choose candidates from the same pool. The town does, however, acknowledge that it benefits from the census counting incarcerated people in its population, since local governments often receive grant money determined by those official counts. Here's Grafton Village, Ohio. So the third district in Grafton Village, containing the Lorraine and Grafton correctional institutions, has roughly the same number of registered voters as the other three districts in the village, despite dwarfing those districts in geographic size. The village has petitioned the state of Ohio to exclude incarcerated people from its population count, including them would have forced it to officially be considered a city and required Grafton Village to spend more on public resources. So the incarcerated outnumbers them from 4,045 to 2,591 respectively. And then Oldham County, Kentucky. It says in Oldham County, the commission decided after 2010 census to exclude incarcerated people from its counts when attempting to draw magistrate districts of equal population. Albert Harrison, who led that commission, said that he made the decision to avoid giving a disproportional representational advantage to the area that surrounds the prisons. Harrison, who is now a county magistrate, represents District 3, which is one of the two districts that contains prisons. The area around the prisons, known as Buckner, had roughly as many people incarcerated as permanent residents as of the last census. So that's 4,216 compared to non-incarcerated that are 56,100. So it says a recent study about Pennsylvania State Legislative District by Villanova University associate professors highlights the impact this process can have on the political voice of incarcerated people's home communities. It found that a substantial likelihood that Philadelphia would gain additional majority minority district for Pennsylvania State House if prisoners incarcerated in the state were counted as residents of their last known address. The incarcerated are not only missing from their communities, but they're also advantaging other communities. Still, the issue of whether to count prisoners for census numbers have been split largely among partisan lines. Most supporters who want to change the way incarcerated are counted are Democrats, while the Republicans generally want to keep things the way they are. In 2015, when the Census Bureau was collecting public comments about this rules for counting people in prisons, Thomas Hoffner, a prominent Republican redistricting strategist who died in 2018, warned against adjusting prisoners' numbers. Hoffler expressed the concern that the actual effect on reapportionment and redistricting is not clearly known for individual states. So says this change is being encouraged by Democrat or liberal organizations and could involve a Census Bureau. Yet another political conflict. So the problem is that you have some areas where they have a huge amount of incarcerated people, where they're counting them as part of their census. But the thing is like those numbers will help benefit that town, even though they are incarcerated and they don't get the benefits of that census count. They don't get to voice, their concerns. They don't get to vote when it comes to those elections, yet they're still counted. So I just wanted to bring that up because I thought that was important when it comes to how people in these districts who are incarcerated get counted, but they don't get to reap any of the benefits because they're incarcerated. Neither do they have the ability to vote, even though they are incarcerated. And so I find it really deplorable how they will use the people who are incarcerated to bump up their numbers, but there's no representation for them. And there are some countries who actually allow their felons to vote. They actually hold elections for the leaders of government in prisons. And they even have debates in prisons. They will have debates. The presidential candidates or the candidates for office will have debates in those prisons. So the prisoners can see, oh, well, this person will represent our country better. And this is in some social democracies. Javier, you're right. Javier says, can't let prisoners vote, or they'll vote out the people making private prison contracts. You can't let the slaves vote, because if the slaves vote, then they'll vote out the slave owners. You guys know Bill and Hillary Clinton? Did you guys know that they used slave labor in the governor's mansion when he was governor of Arkansas? Interesting, right? Yeah. So yes, when it comes to stories like this, I hope that we can push for the formerly incarcerated, at the very least, to not have to be paywalled into voting again. And I would like that they are not only have it restored, but then they do not have to face being rejected from voting based on their economic status. Because how would you feel if you owed taxes to the state and your ability to vote was revoked because, oh, well, you owed state taxes and you have not paid them yet, so we're going to withhold your ability to vote? How would you feel? I think we got to put that in perspective. Now, if you want to argue certain people who have done felonies when it comes to sex offenses or murders, okay, we can have that conversation, right? But what about all the other people who are in jail for grand theft, right? Who are in prison for felony possession? How many people are in prison under felony for failure to pay child support? It's crazy, man. It's crazy on his face. So yeah, so I'm hoping that this changes, because we really need to change in this system, especially when it comes to people being able to have the right to vote. And this affects largely poor and Black people in this state. So yeah, let's hope we can change this. The only real change is that we have to physically change this system altogether. But we can do it. We just have to realize our power. So go ahead and give the stream a like. Thank you very much for that. Let's go into the chat. All right, good there. Let me check the Rumble side. We're good on Rumble. Good. All right. Let's check in the general. The general. All right. Roger Meadows says, violation of the 24th Amendment. Amen. Roger says, remember Florida requires 60% for ratification. Yep, we'll be talking about that in the next segment. Good to see you, Notori, coming in the chat. All right. Let me. Okay. So here, Jacqueline says people who have just finished their prison sentences shouldn't have their rights to vote taken off them in the first place. Once free, they should be eligible to vote. I agree. Freedom Experiment says DeSantis wants debtors' prisons with no ability to pay. I agree with that too. Roger says Kwame asking guys about capitalism. It's like making a tadpole realize that's in water. Before RBN, I wanted to make capitalism fairer. Y'all came along and said we're adopting a new system. Tadpole is now a frog. And now you're in the air. You're breathing with your lungs now. Jacqueline says, wasn't there a case recently where a young woman was sentenced to 5 years in prison because she voted as an ex-felon? I think so. And the problem is that all because she dared to try to, vote again, now she's back in prison? Like, what the hell? Roger says, that's it. Y'all in Florida, next CBI needs to make all political parties unconstitutional in the state of Florida, that every level of government, no matter where they go, to represent us. I agree with that. The thing is, like, if you take that away, then people are forced to look at policies. You are forced to look at, like, for instance, how many people who are voting for either Donald Trump or Kamala Harris have actually went on their website and actually read their policies? Because if you're going to be voting for somebody, you need to read their policies and what they want to do, what they'll be for. And it's not just president. It's also people who are running in the House, people who are running in the Senate, people who are running for governor, people who are running for the state House, the state Senate, people who are running for mayor, people who are running for mayor of either the county or the city, people who are running for a county commission, people who are running for the city council, people who are running for a comptroller. I don't care if it's dog catcher. You need to read their policies. But the thing is that a lot of people just do not want to read their policies because they want to go by political party, by this particular label and say, oh yeah, well, this person's a Democrat, so they believe in these core issues. When in reality, the Democrats don't even have a bunch of core issues that they believe in. Because you'll have somebody like Henry Cuellar who is anti-choice, right? Pro-life, but really he's pro-birth, forced birth. But then at the same time, he's in the same party as an AOC. It don't match up. The math ain't mapping. Why are you having these two people in the same party? Why, now, of course, she moved to the right. So now she's closer to a Joe Biden or a Henry Cuellar than she was like a couple of years ago. Or maybe she was always there. We just didn't realize it. But that's the thing. Like, why are we having these political parties? Honestly, we should just get rid of all parties and enforce people to actually look at the policies. And wait a minute, has Kamala Harris put her policies up on her website yet? Because we're outside of the Democratic Convention now. I'm checking right now. Hang on. She didn't put them up. There's no policy. None. Nothing. No policy. None. Wait, hang on. Store, contact us, donate to Harris Victory Fund, donate by mail, frequently asked questions, work with us, your privacy rights, terms and conditions, website accessibility statement. Nothing. I don't see. Look, I'm looking for her policies. Where they at though? Where they at though? I don't see them. Do you see them? I don't see them. So this is the thing. Not having political parties, that forces you to look up their policies. Thank you very much. You see. So thank you very much for that, Roger. Javier says, in Puerto Rico, prisoners can vote while in prison. Interesting. We should have the same thing here, but of course we don't. Zoe says, my significant other is Bengali. Thank you for speaking on this. Oh, you're welcome. Roger says, when you live in a state with no state income taxes, the state has to take it out of you some other way since they can't collect it through that. So usually court and license fees, property tax are higher than blue New York. Yeah. I'll be honest with you. Like I said, if you know, I honestly think that we should adopt two things. Because, and thinking about, what you said, Roger, we should also do a public bank, right? Because that would definitely help. But also, I think anybody making above $200,000 a year should also start paying state tax. I think a state tax should start at $200,000 a year and help. Because all those rich Miami socialites, all those rich people in places like West Palm Beach and in Isleworth and in Windermere here in Central Florida and in Winter Park, if you're making above $200,000 a year, you should start paying state tax. I think we should implement a state tax on top of also having a public bank. And then that state tax goes into the public bank, and then the public bank actually grows that tax in the market and then takes that money that is grown and then implement it to do infrastructure projects in the state. Because if you're winning in capitalism, then you deserve to pay. You should pay. At least in the interim until a revolution happens. We need a revolution. We need a revolution. We got so much confusion. I'm not supposed to change. I ain't supposed to change. Roger says, require that incarcerated persons be counted in the place of their last residence for redistricting. This was put on the 2021 New York ballot by New York State legislator. We failed to ratify. Interesting. Jacqueline says, I'm chatting with my daughter and listening to this at the same time. This is why I haven't been in the chat group. Oh, okay. Roger says, Jay can't vote for not paying taxes. I guess a lot of rich cats won't be able to vote. Juicy Bay says she doesn't need policy. Dems don't like policy. I would say both parties, but Javier says it was a political play in the 70s for Romero Barcelos MPP party to stay in power. Prisoners were pressured to vote MPP. The 70s was wild here. You down with MPP? Yeah, you know me. All right. So let's go into last segment. Oh, before we get into the last segment, I would just want to shout out to all of the patrons on Patreon. Thank you so very much to all of you for also making sure that this channel stays afloat. It very much appreciated. So with that being said, I want to share the tiers just so you know what you're getting into. All right. So thank you very much to all the patrons. And here are the tiers. Mega Jaybefaunters, Super Duper Jaybefaunters, Super Jaybefaunters, Jaybefaunters, Comrades, Solidarity, and JB members. And welcome to new members, Ricky Hale and T. Wode. Thank you so very much for becoming new members and patrons on Patreon. It means the world to me. Also, just to let you guys know, I am demonetized. So if you like to support the channel, you can support via Patreon or PayPal. Or if you like to, you can also give Rumble rants if you're on Rumble as well, or Tips and Rockman. So with that being said, let's go into our final segment. We're going to be talking about ballot initiatives, Florida 2024 Amendment 4. Let's get into it. This is going to be an important one to get into. A lot of people are talking about it. So let's go. Now, you and I both know that the abortion debate is a very hotly contested debate, whether you're liberal or conservative. A lot of people are kind of up in the air, kind of agnostic to which side of the debate that they stand on. But one thing can be clear. There are a lot of people who also believe that, well, we should have some measures when it comes to it. And if you feel that way, what measures do you feel are significant? Should it be 6 weeks? Should it be 15 weeks? Should it be 24 weeks? Should it be 36 weeks? How many weeks do you feel should be sufficient for somebody, if they want to terminate a pregnancy, they should be able to do so? Because the thing is like sometimes these things are necessary for health reasons or otherwise, right? Whatever you believe, there is a ballot initiative that's going to be on the ballot for this November regarding abortions. And this is going to be Amendment 4. So let's get into Amendment 4. We're going to see exactly what it is, what it contains, who supports it, who doesn't support it, and what the language means so that you guys will be informed about what's going on in this ballot initiative series. So here is the Florida Amendment 4 Right to Abortion Initiative. So it says a yes vote supports establishing a constitutional right to abortion before fetal viability. A no vote opposes establishing a constitutional right to abortion before fetal viability. So, of course, you need a 60% supermajority vote required for approval for the amendment. This is going to be, just to let you guys know, for all the ballot initiatives here in Florida, we need 60%. In your state, prospective state, it could be different. Okay, you may just need 51%. It depends, right, on the laws that your state has. Now, let's continue. It says, as of August 24th, 2024, 11 statewide ballot measures related to abortion were certified in Arizona, Colorado, Florida, Maryland, Missouri, Montana, Nebraska, New York, Nevada, and South Dakota for the general election ballot of 2024. This is the most on record for a single year. You can find a list of 2024 certified proposed measures here. Okay, so here's the overview. What would the initiative do? It says the initiative will provide a constitutional right to abortion before fetal viability or when necessary to protect the patient's health as determined by the patient's healthcare provider. The following language would be added to the state constitution. Quote, except as provided in Article 10, Section 22, no law shall prohibit, penalize, delay, or restrict abortion before viability or when necessary to protect the patient's health as determined by the patient's healthcare provider. The initiative would not change the state's legislator's authority to enact law requiring the parents of a minor to be notified if their child is seeking an abortion, with exceptions that can be attained through judicial waiver. So, So when it comes to viability, right? Because some people may not know when a fetus is viable or pregnancy is viable, right? So I would just want to share this first, because a lot of us men, we don't know this information, right? In particular, because we don't have uteruses, you know, those us cis men, we don't have uteruses. So just to give you guys a bit of an overview of what viability is, here it is, okay? So this is from the NHS. It says, by the time you are 24 weeks pregnant, the baby has a chance of survival if they are born. Most babies born before this time cannot live because their lungs and their vital organs are not developed enough. The care that can now be given in baby neonatal units means more and more babies born early do survive. Now, the thing is that you have to be, viability is 24 weeks. Before that, it is not viable. So they essentially can't be saved if they're outside of the womb. The thing is most women do not know they're pregnant until 6 weeks in, because they have their monthly cycle, typically every 28 days. 28 days was 4 weeks. So they're typically waiting for their cycle around that time within those 6 weeks. And once they miss their cycle, which is supposed to happen after 28 days, guess what? Oh, I missed my period. I might be pregnant. And so if they miss their period and they might be pregnant, guess what? They find that out 6 weeks later. So people who are saying, oh, we should have a 6-week ban, you're basically making it so that anybody who, right when they find out they're pregnant, it's already too late. Too late. And then, even if you did 15 weeks or so, like somebody like Donald Trump wants to do, 15, some people, you know, when it comes to getting an abortion, you have to make appointments. You may have to wait a long time. Some people may not have the ability to get to a clinic in that much time. So time's ticking, right? So unfortunately, you know, is it reasonable to do it within that amount of time? And also, this isn't late term abortion. Pregnancies are 39 weeks. Yeah. 24 weeks. You know, 24 weeks is 6 months. That's how long it takes for a fetus to be viable. It takes a long time. It takes longer for a fetus to be viable than it is the viability period between you know, a fetus, you know, being viable and being born. So just to give you guys a little bit of a background about viability. All right, so let's go back into the article. So who's behind the campaign surrounding the initiative? So Florida's Protecting Freedom. So we'll get into that in a little bit. It says 5 committees registered. You see, what is the status of the history of abortion in Florida? So on April 1st, it says Florida Supreme Court ruled that the Constitution's right to privacy does not include the right to abortion, overturning a previous decision by the court in 1989, finding that the privacy clause did include a right to abortion. The ruling allowed the state's 15-week abortion ban passed by the legislature in 2022 to take effect. In 2023, the legislature passed another bill known as the Heartbeat Protection Act to ban abortion at 6 weeks, which was contingent on the state Supreme Court overturning its prior ruling and allowing 15-week ban to take effect. The 6-week ban took effect on May 1st. Before 2022, abortions were legal in Florida until 24 weeks. So essentially, via ballot initiative, we're going back to the way we were. That's essentially what we're doing. All right. So in 2012, voters rejected an amendment limiting public funds for abortions. And in 2004, they approved parental notification for minors seeking abortion. It says what states have decided on abortion ballot measures recently. So in 2022, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled Dobbs versus Jackson Women Health Organization that there is no federal constitutional right to abortion and overturned Roe v. Wade, effectively returning abortion policy decisions to the states. Since 2022, 7 ballot measures addressing abortion have been on the ballot, with 2022 having the highest number of abortion ballot measures on records in a single year. 4 measures in Vermont, Michigan, California in 2022, and Ohio in 2023 were sponsored by campaigns that described themselves as pro-choice and created state constitutional rights to abortion. All 4 measures were approved. 3 measures in Kansas, Kentucky, and Montana were sponsored by campaigns describing themselves as pro-life and were designed explicitly to provide that there is no right to abortion in the state constitution. All 3 were defeated. So states set to have abortion on the ballot in 2024. You have Arizona, Colorado, Florida, Maryland, Missouri, Montana, Nebraska. So there's 2 in Nebraska. Says prohibit abortions after the first trimester, and then right to abortion initiative. New York. So this one's interesting. It says add language to the New York Bill of Rights to include people cannot be denied rights based on their ethnicity, national origin, age, disability, or sex. Sex, including sexual orientation, gender identity, gender expression, pregnancy outcomes, and reproductive health and autonomy. You have Nevada and South Dakota. Okay. So the potential impact says the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee, the DCCC, representative said this is a serious blow for anti-abortion extremists. There's no question that when abortion rights are on the ballot, Democrats, Republicans, and independents alike turn out to vote to protect their freedoms. Fentress Driscoll, the Democratic minority leader in the Florida House, says, I do believe House seats are winnable for Democrats, and I believe they're winnable. I think the ballot initiative really helps us. So these are just some of the people who are speaking out about it. Here is let me go to Donald Trump. He said Florida is probably maybe going to change also. See, it is all what it will, the will of the people. I can't read what he says sometimes. This is what I've been saying. It's a perfect system. So for 52 years, people have wanted to end Roe v. Wade and get it back to the states. We did that. It's an incredible thing, an incredible achievement. We did that. And now the states have it, and the states are putting it out the way they want. It's the will of the people. So Florida probably is going to change. Arizona is going to definitely change. Everybody wants that to happen. And you're getting the will of the people. It's been pretty amazing. Oh my gosh. And then here's Ron DeSantis says, Joe Biden is coming down to try to support a constitutional amendment that will mandate abortion up to the moment of birth. This is a lie. It is a lie. It is not until the moment of birth. It is until it is viable, which is 24 weeks, 23 to 24 weeks. A birth does not happen typically until 39 weeks. 24 is not the same as 39. So that being said, Ron DeSantis is lying to you. All right, let's continue. He says that will eliminate parental consent for minors. And that's written in a way that is intentionally designed to deceive voters. So I can tell you is that Floridians are not buying what Joe Biden is selling. And in November, we're going to play an instrumental role in sending him back to Delaware where he belongs. So yeah, when they say that is going to allow abortion up to right before birth, that is a lie. So whenever somebody says that, they're lying. It's for viability up to 24 weeks. You see. It says ballot title, amendment to limit government interference with abortion. Ballot summary, no law shall prohibit, penalize, delay, or restrict abortion before viability when necessary to protect the patient's health as determined by the patient's healthcare provider. This amendment does not change the legislator's constitutional authority to require notification to a parent or guardian before a minor has an abortion. Also, you're still required to notify a parent or guardian, a child's parent or guardian, if they are a minor. With that being said, Ron DeSantis is lying to you. Plus, they also don't talk about ectopic pregnancies and how that could be, damaging to the life of the mother or the parent, I should say. It says financial impact. Amendment to limit government interference with abortion says the proposed amendment will result in significantly more abortions and fewer live births per year in Florida. The increase on abortions could be even greater if the amendment invalidates laws requiring parental consent before minors undergo abortions and those ensuring only licensed physicians perform abortions. There are also uncertainty about whether the amendment will require the states to subsidize abortions with public funds. Litigation to resolve those and other uncertainties will require an additional cost to the state government and state courts that will never negatively impact the state budget. An increase in abortions will negatively affect the growth of state and local revenues over time because the fiscal impact of increased abortions on state and local government and costs cannot be estimated with precision. The total impact of the proposed amendment is indeterminate, meaning less people born mean less people pay taxes. Less people born means less people workers. Ultimately, this is about increasing the workforce. That's ultimately what it's about. If you really want to get really right down to it, it's about increasing the amount of workers that people have. But the thing is, it's like you're not actually taking care of your workers, you're exploiting them. So it's actually continuing the increase of exploitable people and preventing people who don't want to have a pregnancy or it's dangerous for them to have a pregnancy. Then it's like, well, no, we're going to force you no matter what, so that we can have that worker to exploit, so that we can actually have more money either for the state taxes, or we can have more people to exploit in our corporations. That's ultimately what it's about. That's why they're saying, oh, we'll be making less money if more people start having abortions. And the thing is, it's like if somebody wants to have them, the problem is that it's going to happen. But it's going to happen either dangerously for somebody or it's not. And the problem is that if you, I'm not even going to get into the morality of it, because if I do, then I'm going to have a bunch of hate comments. But that's ultimately what it's about. It's about the finances of the state. It's not actually an argument about the life. So of course, supporters are Joe Biden, Frederica Wilson, Lauren Book, Jason Pizzo. You have SEIU Union, $11.99. They are endorsing it. ACLU, Faith in Public Life Action, Florida Rising, Florida Women's Freedom Coalition, League of Women Voters in Florida, Men for Choice, Planned Parenthood of Southwest and Central Florida, The Fairness Project, Think Big America, and Women's Voices of Southwest Florida. So faith leaders, of course, are in favor of this. So yes, you have Joe Biden. Floridians protecting freedom says overwhelmingly majority of Floridians think we should have the freedom to make our own personal healthcare decisions without interference from politicians. Despite that, politicians in Florida just signed the most extreme abortion ban in this nation. It bans abortion before most people can even realize they are pregnant. Here's the funny part about this. A lot of times people will talk about their body, their choice, especially when it comes to the pandemic, and they'll talk about, well, I want to be able to, and, put this over my face. I got to be careful what I say. I can choose to not have it, right? My body, my choice. But when it comes to the pregnancy, they completely renege on it. The funny part is that they'll talk about, well, it's life, but at the same time, these are the same people that will destroy life on a daily basis. I mean, aren't viruses a life? Aren't germs a life? Anywho, I'm being facetious, but the thing is like, if you really believe in your body, your choice, I don't know. It's like, this is a lot to go through because this is a very, okay, so here's the opponents. Rick Scott, of course, DeSantis, Ashley B. Moody, and the organizations are Florida Conference for Catholic Bishops. It's funny. You know what's funny to me? It's the Florida Conference of Catholic Bishops, yet it was Catholics that actually performed abortions back in the day. They actually performed abortions in the past. And I'm not talking about like hundreds of years ago. I'm talking about like 1940s, 1950s. They were performing abortions. Catholics were. So it's kind of weird to me. So Florida Family Action, Florida Family Policy Council, Florida Right to Life, National Center for Life and Liberty, Priests for Life, and Susan B. Anthony, Pro-Life America. So yeah. So Florida Family Action, they're lying to you here. It says the sponsors of this bill, this extreme amendment, wants to legalize abortion up to the moment of birth and still repeal all limitations and regulations on abortion, even safety regulations that protect women, because they want to make Florida the home of late-term abortions in the Southeast. Like I said, it's up to viability, which is 24 weeks. It says, just as one example, so, how misleading this initiative is. The initiative creates right to abortion through viability. The sponsor has gone so far as attempting to deceive Floridians as to not post any information on its website on what that means by viability and when is the right to abortion, which the attempt to enshrine in our Constitution ends. What I personally would not vote for is an initiative, no matter what the definition of viability it was using. I know that to some voters, this is material to their vote, whether you're talking about abortion in the first trimester or at the end of the second trimester. Here's the thing. I literally just Googled what viability was, and I showed you guys. Like, it's like, what does viability mean? All right, well, just Google it. Like, it is not that hard. Ashley Moody is basically saying that the constituents are too stupid to actually Google what viability means. See how they play it in your face? Oh, Lord. Anyway, So everybody got something to say on this because everybody, has an opinion, right? So here's the campaign finance, of course, millions of dollars. So the support is way more than the oppose, right? It's more of an uphill battle, especially here in Florida. So yeah, you have also the donors for the support in the opposition. Florida voters against extremism. Are they going up against the KKK and saying that's extremism too? Anyway, of course, here's your donors. So of course, when it comes to talking about this, when it comes to this subject, this is a very hotly contested subject. And so some people, have their opinions, when it comes to abortion, things like that. I have my opinions, and I largely keep them to myself as a man. You know what I say? Look, if you got a uterus, that's for you to determine, not me. So here are state abortion restrictions based on stage of pregnancy. So it says does the state restrict abortion after a specific point in pregnancy? Of Alabama says yes. You are not allowed to have one past conception. Meaning the moment you get pregnant, you're banned. So yeah. Connecticut and Delaware are fetal viability. Florida and Georgia is 6 weeks post-fertilization. And remember I said most people who are pregnant do not know that they're pregnant until 6 weeks. So by the time you realize it, you're just finding it out. And now you're banned. Kansas is 20 weeks since last menstrual period. Kentucky and Louisiana says since conception. Massachusetts is 24 weeks post-fertilization. You know what's funny? I don't see any 39 weeks. And third trimester since last menstrual period, you might as well say fetal viability for the most part. But I don't see anything after 24 weeks. Nothing. I don't see anything. So when people are like, oh my God, they're going to be doing late-term abortions up to point of birth, they're lying to you. They're lying to you. There's nothing in this country. I have never heard of a 39-week abortion. I've heard of stillborn, right? I've heard, of miscarriages. But no. So when people talk about, oh my God, they're trying to do late-term abortions, late-term being, third trimester, and they're trying to just, by the time you hit your third trimester, you're trying to have the kid. You just are. You're trying to have a kid. You're allowing that to happen, right? By the time you hit the third trimester, you're not trying to get rid of that kid. You know what I'm saying? The people who are needing to abort are typically, by the time they find out, So once you're 6 weeks, you really have 18 weeks before viability. 18 weeks. But yeah, so let me finish this off. So this goes over the history of abortion measures. There's a lot of great information in here. So as far as finding out about the history of, abortion initiatives across the country, you can go here. And so ultimately, on Amendment 4, I'll be voting yes. Because, well, as far as, as far as my opinion, I leave it up to the people who have uteruses, essentially, because it's like, it's like, if you don't want to have an abortion, don't have one. But anyway, and so that's basically it. So go ahead and give the stream a like. Let's go into the chat. Some people got some things to say. Let's see. Roger says many states have closed the 13th Amendment loophole via ballot initiative. Can you do a quick search via Ballotpedia to see what states have? Also, scoreboard elections as nonpartisan is best example of how to govern with no party. Hang on. Hang on. I think this is it. What you were asking me about, Roger? It says in 2022. Hang on. Hold on. So repeal language allowing slavery and voluntary servitude as criminal punishments. This was, what state is this? Oh, Oregon. So Oregon, 2022, Tennessee also did it. And then Vermont, prohibit slavery and indentured servitude in state constitution. That's what I can see so far. So yeah. So Roger says Florida tax amendment requires 66% for ratification. Of course, it would be higher. What he says, what is the high side for ratification threshold, or is that standard for those types of ballot initiatives? Oh, he answers. Florida would be 60 or 66% for taxes. Arizona is 60% specifically for taxes regarding CBI amendments. Everything else is 50% plus. They be CBI amendments or laws. Illinois is 60%. Colorado is 55%. Yeah, so it depends on the state, but sometimes they'll do for 60. I don't know why it's for taxes, but it says someone in Florida should run a CBI, giving you the right to repeal Florida laws. 50%. Yeah, I agree. Christino says we can't even take care of living babies. Why are so much care about fetuses? I mean, we should start taking care of the kids. I mean, we should be ending poverty for children, period. But then if you end poverty for children, you have to end poverty for their parents. But then you gotta, you have to, pull yourself up by the bootstraps. Roger says JBPDM, the amendment New York State legislature put on the ballot this November is not only for abortion, which I vote for, but the second part where it is anti-discrimination, pro-equal rights amendment. Let me see. So this one is so you say this is already in New York State Constitution. What would this do is add gender equality and sexual orientation to what they're saying in website is it opens the door for New York State legislature to pass law for kids to get sex changes without parents knowing. They're minors though. Like because here's my thing. If they're going to allow for kids to get gender affirming surgery under the age of 18, then that also opens the door for kids to either get, for instance, if a cisgender boy has gynecomastia, if he's under the age of 18, he can actually do it without a parent's consent. And girls who want to get breast augmentation surgery, they can do that without their parents' consent. Like, nah, it should be within the parents, knowledge, I mean, they're not going to be able to do that without the parents' consent, It's about the parents knowing. Schools will be disallowed to tell parents that their kids were pursuing it. Technically, I mean, by law, I mean, I don't see how that I don't see how they should allow that, because ultimately, I mean, the parents should be notified. But at the same time, I do get a child who wants to get gender affirming care if they have a parent that is oppressive to them. My thing is anything surgical or medical, I think the only best way for, if somebody who's under the age of 18, let's say they're 16, and if they actually want to do it, they would need to get emancipated. I think that's the only way that it could happen, because the thing is that, you know, of course, I'm on the side of trans kids who want to get gender affirming care, but at the same time, you know, that's difficult. That's a hard one. That's a hard one, because I want them to be able to express themselves, but it's hard to do it if you have a parent that doesn't want to, you know, that is against it. At the same time, that's a toughie. But I just don't see how parents can that, because the thing is, it's like I said, then that also gives room for, like, if somebody wants to get breast augmentation surgery under the age of 18, then they'll be allowed to do that. And I don't see that ever happening. Like, you will not be allowed to go under the knife. And what doctor would do that, you know, for breast augmentation surgery? Or if a cisgender boy has gynecomastia, wants to get breast augmentation surgery. Or let's say if it's a boy who's uncircumcised that wants to get circumcision at 12, 13 years old, you know, or between the ages of 14, 15, like, he can't just go into a doctor's office and sign himself to get, you know, circumcision. You know what I'm saying? Without parental consent. So I just don't see that happening outside of parental consent, you know. And I think that the decisions between, you know, for minors should be between their, you know, between them, their parents, and their doctors. But I don't know. And I don't, you know, I think that things that are reversible, okay, but it still should be with the parent, you know, consulting in mind. Like, for instance, things like puberty blockers are reversible, right? Anything that's permanent, I think, should be done with an adult mind. That's just my thing. You know, this is why I'm also against circumcisions too. You know, like, nah, we don't need to do it no more. So that's my thing. Like, you should be able to do it with, you know, if you're going to do something permanent to your body, then do it, you know, as an adult, you know, an adult in mind. Jacqueline, it's called gynecomastia. So gynecomastia is basically a condition where boys, you know, develop breasts, have excess breast tissue, and some boys, they, you know, they want to get, you know, that reduction basically, so that it looks like a male chest. And so, you know, for some of them, they may get that surgery as a teenager because they have that condition, you know, because they have that, you know, and for some boys, it's in varying degrees, but yeah, so I'll take a look at this real quick. Let me see. Where is it? So it's vote no on Prop 1, Save Girls Sports. Vote no on Prop 1, the so-called Equal Rights Amendment. Parents know what's best for their kids, not the government. All New York State parents and families deserve to have their sacred rights protected and not stripped away. The Coalition to Protect Kids New York is a ballot issue committee registered with the New York Board of Elections, who are comprised of New York. Okay. Says New Yorkers aren't looking to replace parents with state laws. That's why the Coalition to Protect Kids. Okay. Boy. Let me see. Is a proposed amendment in New York State Constitution aims to drastically expand protection that includes sexual orientation, gender identity, gender expression, and reproductive health care rights, including for minors. This could barely undermine parental rights and common sense protections for children. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. This is something, I mean, I'm not in New York, so I don't have, that to vote on, but ultimately, I think it should be between a parent and their kid, that decision. But when it comes to parents who are very conservative minded and they don't want their kid to do it, I think one of two choices, either. But the problem is that if a kid tries to get emancipation, they don't have money to be able to do that, because I think that takes court costs on lawyers and stuff like that. So it's a toughie, man. Because truth be told, like, my nephew got a tattoo when he was 16, but he got it through his mom's consent. That's a body alteration. You know what I'm saying? What if, what if a girl wants to get her ears pierced? What if she's 16, 17 years old? She wants to get her ears pierced. I mean, that's a body modification. By certain laws, she shouldn't be able to get her ears pierced. She shouldn't be able to go to Claire's and get her ears pierced, because that's a body modification, right? It's like, and how far does the body modification go? Is the body modification, can you not color your hair? It's like, I don't know, man. Anyway, so thanks for that, Roger. Checking here. All right, so I'm gonna head out. Just to let you guys know, next week I will be in Tampa to be covering what happened in what's going on for the trial for the African People's Socialist Party. So yeah, that's going to be interesting. This Thursday, we're going to be having an RBN roundtable. I think we have a guest, so that's going to be interesting to talk about. So yes. Anywho, so I just want to thank everybody for tuning in. Roger says this is irreversible. I'm talking about puberty blockers. They are reversible. Those are, but gender affirming surgery, no. But gender affirming care could be things that are non-medical, like if somebody wants to grow their hair out or cut their hair short or wear gender affirming clothes, that stuff it's just surface level, it's cosmetic, So, I'm totally, not against that, because that's really just about, outward expression. But anything that's permanent, I think, should be done with an adult mind or with the consultation of your parent. But that's all about it. But with that being said, I'm going to head on out. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Look, like I always say, water your plants, water yourselves, leave the world better than you found it. Do all the things if you have them. And keep an eye out what's going on around the world in places like Bangladesh. Also, express solidarity with people who have been victimized by the system, especially by the carceral system. This is why it's important for us to try to change the system as much as we possibly can, because the people who are victimized by it should be the ones who, benefit the most, because they shouldn't have to be victims. And also, by the way, one more thing about the carceral system. One of the things I was thinking about also is, what if we had a issue regarding a ballot measure and it had to do with reparations? You can imagine how many, people who are American descendants of slaves, if they got their voting rights back, who are incarcerated, they would vote for reparations. Man, the people way at the top of the economic ladder, they would lose their minds. But this is why I also think voting rights should be given back to people, at least who have served their time. I'm personally thinking that people who are, nonviolent, at the very least, should get their voting rights while they're still incarcerated. But that's just me. But anywho, I'll see you guys later. Also, consult your conscience. I can't give you whether to or not on Amendment 4. You have to consult your conscience, but I try to give you as much information as possible on that one. That one's, yeah. But thank you very much for watching, everybody. I will see y'all in the next one. Mwah. Forehead kisses. And deuces, Bruces. Thank you so very much for watching my channel, and I deeply appreciate it from the top and bottom of my heart. If you wish to support the channel further, so I can keep bringing you content that is educational and informative, you can become a patron on patreon.com/Jaybefaunt. You can find that link in the pinned comment or in the description below. No matter what you give, you'll be supporting independent media and education that helps make the world better. Thank you so much, and you can watch more of my content here. Mwah. Forehead kisses, and have a beautiful day.